Good evening, welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. Two of the killers of Sidhu Moose Wala have been shot down in an encounter that lasted for over 5 hours. This happened just on the outskirts of Amritsar, not too far from the Indo-Pak border. Some big questions loom large. How can two gangsters carry such heavy-duty weapons, such heavy ammo, and hold out the police for over 5 hours? In fact, two of these gangsters, they've been identified as Jagroop Singh, alias Roopa, and Manpreet Mannu, both of whom were involved in the killing of Sidhu Moose Wala. These gangsters were hiding in a farmhouse where they could keep a watch on all four directions. After targeting the gangsters with snipers, the SOG commandos then stormed the building. They eliminated all four of them. Police have also recovered AK-47s along with heavy ammunition from the spot. The Punjab DGP, we're told, will be briefing the media shortly. But first, let's bring you up to speed with what a day it turned out to be in Punjab.
ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੁਲੇਰੋ ਮੋਟਰਸਾਈਕਲ ਕੇ ਦੋ ਸ਼ੂਟਰਸ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹ ਅਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਐਬਸਕੌਂਡਿੰਗ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੀਕ੍ਰੀਟ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਸੀਗੀ तो एक एंटी गैंगस्टर टास्क फोर्स लोकल पुलिस लोकल ऑफिसर्स इन टोटल कोऑर्डिनेशन आज कहने घेरा पाया गया होना वालों का जो तुम्हारे सारे ऊपर काफी सारे कवरेज करे 4-5 घंटे तो दो बंदे एक मनु दूसरा रूपा दोनों में इनकाउंटर कर दिया गया उनका दोनों की इस एक्सचेंज ऑफ फायर में मौत हुई है अच्छी सानू मौके पे मिला है एक AK-47 मिली है जी एक .30 पिस्टल मिला है एक बैग भी है जिसका पहले फोरेंसिक एग्जामिनेशन फिर से कर सके उधर किसी की नहीं.
All right, these are the live pictures that are coming in from that place where this encounter happened. You can see a pose of police personnel. You can see police jeeps there in the background as well. There are at least 4 police vehicles that you can see. The entire spot is surrounded by fields, and it's in the middle of these fields in broad daylight that this encounter happened for 5 hours between the Punjab Police Special Operations Group commandos and these 4 terrorists who were holed up inside a house in that area. Remember, this is not too far from the Indo-Pakistan border, just on the outskirts of Amritsar, and clearly there seem to be some very, very hard questions that need to be asked. Let me go across to Anshul, my colleague, and ask him some of these questions. What the opposition is raising in Punjab, what even, onlookers are asking. How is it that these two gangsters, with so much ammunition, with so much heavy weaponry, were able to hold out for so long in broad daylight in the fields of Punjab?
That's right, Zaka. So Punjab police might have breathed a sigh of relief when they finally killed these two, the main accused in the killing of Sidhu Moose Wala case, because remember, Punjab police and the administration has been under a lot of pressure since day one, or since the very day that Sidhu Moose Wala was killed. Because if you remember, Zaka, the first demand of the family members of Sidhu Moose Wala was that this investigation should be handed over to a central investigating agency. But the Punjab administration at that point in time did not allow that to happen. And since then, they have been under a lot of pressure. They have been making arrests. Almost 8 people from various gangs have been arrested by the Punjab police. But these two main accused were absconding from the Punjab police for the last 2 months. So yes, they were under a lot of pressure. But yes, as the Punjab police breathes a sigh of relief, but a lot more questions are being raised on the Punjab police now. How did these people actually manage to get in Punjab? Why did they come back to Punjab once they had managed to flee from Punjab? Because remember, Zaka, there were 3 vehicles right after killing Sidhu Moose Wala. In 3 vehicles, approximately 6 to 7 people fled from that spot in different directions. So if once these people had left from Punjab, why did they come back to Punjab? And from where did they get their hands on that AK-47? All these
Anshul, give me a moment. I'm also joined by Gagandeep, who is our News 18 Punjab reporter. Gagandeep, ये बताइए, अभी तो एनकाउंटर खत्म हो गया, तो काफी सारे सवाल भी जायज हैं. ये जो 2 लोग हैं, जगरूप और मन्नू, ये वापस पंजाब क्यों आए? उनके पास इतने हथियार, इतने एम्युनिशन कैसा उनके हाथ में आया? ये सब सवालों का कोई जवाब है पुलिस के पास?
Actually, police is not telling the entire story in brief. Actually, whatever we are getting from sources, from police sources, that is just like all other gangsters or sharpshooters were getting escaped to other states, like they were going towards Chhattisgarh, MP or Delhi or any other state or Gujarat even. But these two gangsters, Jagroop Roopa and Mannu Kussa, are actually based in Punjab only. So they they refused to go out of the state, and they said that they will not move out of the state. So they stayed back here, and then whatever happened today is just a conclusion part of this entire series of Sidhu Moose Wala murder case.
So, are all the people who were part of that murder of Sidhu Moose Wala, have they either been apprehended or eliminated, all of them?
Basically, these were the four sharpshooters. Priyavrat Fauji was there, Ankit Sirsa was there, and this Mannu Kussa was there, Jagroop Roopa was there. In fact, Jagroop Roopa was actually driving the Corolla car, and Mannu Kussa is supposed to be one close AD of Lawrence Bishnoi and Goldie Brad, who took responsibility of Sidhu Moose Wala murder. On very first day, they post something on some text on Facebook, and they said, Goldie Brad, in fact, he mentioned that he claimed that they have killed Sidhu Moose Wala, and he tagged Lawrence Bishnoi in that post. Now, this Mannu Kussa is supposed to be the close AD, or you can say the most faithful person of Lawrence Bishnoi, most faithful member of Lawrence Bishnoi gang for Lawrence Bishnoi and Goldie Brad both. So he was directed to shoot Sidhu Moose Wala first, and on the day 29th of May 2022, this Mannu Kussa, he opened the first fire on Sidhu Moose Wala with AK-47. Whatever we are getting from our police sources as an information, this is just a brief of that. And after that, everyone was going out of Punjab. Priyavrat Fauji was out of Punjab. Ankit Sirsa was out of Punjab. Deepak Mundi was out of Punjab. But these two people, they refused to go out of Punjab. And somehow, maybe they will be having in their mind that they will go towards Pakistan, because this location, which we are showing to our viewers continuously, this location is just 12 to 13 kilometers far from the international border. And after that 12 to 13 kilometer patch, after that, the border of Pakistan is there, or the international border is there, and beyond that border, there is Pakistan. So they must be thinking that this is the safest exit for them to be in this area. And Mannu Kussa is basically based from this area. There is a village, Kussa, in Taran Taran district. He actually belongs to that village. So somehow he was thinking that because he is a localite here and he may get escape, he may get exit from this area safely, and no one will get his location exactly. But from our police sources, what information we are getting, that police traced them 24 hours back. Yesterday, police traced this location, and they got the information that both shooters are there at this location. And now, today, they just started the operation, and they were chasing these shooters. They were coming in a Thar, but police was chasing them, and police team was chasing them. And later on, police opened the fire, and later on an encounter happened here at this very location. And both are eliminated. So not everyone is eliminated. Maybe things are still remaining. And we have to wait for that.
Okay, Gagandeep, many thanks for joining us live from this location spot where the encounter happened. It lasted for well over 5 hours, and two gangsters who were part of the Sidhu Moose Wala episode have been eliminated, Jagroop and Manpreet. All right, let's shift focus now here on Viewpoint. Sri Lanka has a new president, but the same old ruling dispensation. Ranil Wickremesinghe was elected president by the parliamentary vote that happened today. He secured 134 votes. His closest rival, Dullas, managed just 86. But this comes just a week or so after there were violent protests outside Ranil's office because the Aragalaya protesters see Ranil and the Rajapakshas as two sides of the same coin. So far, there has been a relative peace, sort of a quiet calm, if you will, in the island nation. But how long will that last? Will the Aragalaya accept Ranil Wickremesinghe as the new president?
There is no quelling the anger in Sri Lanka. Not even the election of a new president. Ranil Wickremesinghe officially went from acting president to president of Sri Lanka, polling 134 votes in a three-cornered parliamentary contest.
1973 එකට අපේ දේශපාලන ගමන ආරම්භ කළේ.
He was always a frontrunner, since he was backed by the Rajapaksa's SLPP, which is the largest party. And that's exactly why protesters have not welcomed his win.
एक लोकतांत्रिक देश की खासियत यही होती है कि जब लोकतांत्रिक तरीके से संवैधानिक पद पर कोई इंसान बैठता है तो उसको हर किसी को मानना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि संवैधानिक पद के जरिए जो है लोकतांत्रिक तरीके के जरिए जो है उसकी संवैधानिक पद पर नियुक्ति हुई है। और यही अब रानिल विक्रमसिंघे के साथ हुआ है। हालांकि ऐसा सिर्फ श्रीलंका के अंदर 4 बार हुआ है जब सांसदों ने राष्ट्रपति के लिए वोटिंग की हो, जनादेश के हिसाब से ये नहीं हुआ।
Wickremesinghe is seen as a Rajapaksa ally. Protesters had demanded his resignation when he became Prime Minister as well.
Ranil is a chore, our Parliament Minister chore. Ranil, go home.
Ranil अच्छा नहीं है।
After protesters barged into the President's house, it was Wickremesinghe who extended the state of emergency in the country and gave police and security forces sweeping powers. The protests, which were triggered by a crippling economic crisis, have gone on for more than 100 days and seen the fall of the once powerful Rajapaksa clan.
We are bankrupt that we need to go to the IMF.
And now it's up to Wickremesinghe to try and turn things around.
We have gone back. We have to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, but we can do it. We don't need 5 years, 10 years. By next year, let's start stabilizing that, and certainly by 2024, let's have a functioning economy which will start growing, export-oriented economy, a dynamic economy.
Wickremesinghe has been Prime Minister 6 times, the most by anyone in the country. And yet he has not been able to complete a full term. So will him becoming president douse or fan the fire spreading through Sri Lanka?
All right, I want to go across to our guest. Diana Gamage is a member of the Parliament of Sri Lanka. Fidel Fernando is a journalist and author. Nina Gopal, senior journalist covering this as well. And Aritha Wickremesinghe is a lawyer and equality director at iPro Bono. Let me start with you, Diana Gamage, because, why should we believe that the Aragalaya protesters, who just a week or so ago stormed into Ranil Wickremesinghe's official office, why would they accept the result of today's vote, and why would they accept Ranil as the new president of Sri Lanka?
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's not a matter of them accepting Ranil Wickremesinghe as the new president. Obviously, they were against him from the beginning since he was appointed as prime minister. But according to the way we work and the constitution, Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was acting president, who was the PM, who has obviously become the acting president, he has to be chosen through parliament. That's the constitution that we have. So we had to go in for a vote, which is obviously a secret ballot. And we have to, choose a president through parliament. So that was the reason that we had to go in here. And we are only 225 in the parliament. From that 225, he has to get the majority of votes. Whoever gets the majority of votes becomes the president. So there was 3 names which was proposed in parliament. And obviously, Ranil Wickremesinghe has got the majority, which is 134 members of parliament has voted for Ranil Wickremesinghe. And that's how we actually do it at the moment, because otherwise the other way is obviously going for a election, generally election for potential election. But at this moment, when the president, the predecessor has to do is go with this way. It's the constitutional way to do it.
But Fidel Fernando, the problem here is that the people who have been protesting, and largely, the face of the protest has been the Aragalaya, there were violent protests, a storming of the Prime Minister's office just a week, 10 days ago, when Gotabaya fled and Ranil became the acting president. Now, if Ranil is going to be the president, and Diana Gamage is right, that is the constitutional process. He's won through that constitutional process. But why should the protesters accept? Because they see both Ranil and the Rajapakshas as 2 sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, I was at that protest at the... Hello?
Yes, go on, Fernando.
Sorry, I was at that protest at the Prime Minister's residence, a few days ago or a week ago. I'm not sure I would characterize that as violent. I think it was largely a peaceful protest, but there was an overpowering of the security forces that were assembled there. In terms of whether it's acceptable to the people, the protest movement, obviously not. I think the problem with the issue with Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who was voted in on a huge majority in 2019, and then kind of had a resounding success in the parliamentary polls as well, where the Janatha Vimukti Peramuna, the Rajapaksa's party, got 2/3 majority. People protested and demonstrated in such a way to suggest that that government was no longer legitimate. With Ranil Wickremesinghe, who has not even won his own seat in the last elections, he does not begin with a position of legitimacy to start with. And so for that reason, I think the Aragalaya and not just the Aragalaya, but the protest movement broadly, the protest movement in Sri Lanka is much broader than what you see in Colombo. There are people all around the country who are protesting, who are kind of displeased with the way that Sri Lankan politics is going. And one of the most popular ideas within Sri Lanka and within that protest movement at the moment is that the system, the political system in Sri Lanka needs to be overhauled.
Correct.
And Ranil Wickremesinghe represents much of the same. He represents very similar policies, very similar politics that we've seen in the last few years. And I am absolutely not surprised to see Parliament vote him in again. Because the politicians voted him in rather than the people.
Okay, Fidel, let's try and see if we can fix your video in a moment. So I'm going to go across to Nina Gopal. There seemed to be some kind of last-minute maneuverings even before the vote happened. Sajith Premadasa, who was supposed to be the opposition face, he withdrew his candidature. He threw in his support with Dullas. Dullas, unfortunately, couldn't break the SLPP as much as many thought he would. So he ended up with just 86 votes. Was the result of today's vote almost like a foregone conclusion?
Yes and no, I think, Zaka, because basically the whole idea of Sajith Premadasa even taking responsibility or taking a front role in, fixing the economy was not going to happen. He was not going to face the people because a lot of unpalatable and very uncomfortable decisions will have to be made now.
Correct.
On if he wants a peaceful kind of, if they want to fill whatever the IMF parameters are, then they will have to bite the bullet. And I don't think he wants to go down and face the people and say that, I've had to do this. He's just passed the buck. In many ways, and they're not listening to the people. I mean, she's right. I mean, Diana is right. They have to follow the constitution. But there was also, I believe, a provision whereby the parties could have come together and, form some kind of a multi-party arrangement where they could have, found the solutions together. But that seems to have gone out to the window as well. So I don't know whether this was exactly what was obviously, the parliamentarians are going to protect their own, their own, but the people, I think, have been really shortchanged in this whole exercise.
Arita Wickremesinghe is also joining us. Arita, what happens next? There is the argument that's being put forth by the Ranil people that, look, what we need right now is stability. What we need right now is a government that can negotiate with the IMF, secure a bailout package, elections or a political change, as many of the Aragalaya protesters want, that can wait. The most immediate priority for the government and for the country would be to fix the economic mess. Do you buy that argument? Do you see the Aragalaya protesters buying this election of Ranil Wickremesinghe?
I mean, the term Aragalaya actually means struggle, and actually the whole country is behind this struggle. But in terms of whether the protesters of the country will accept this appointment, I think, as the others have said, because of the lack of legitimacy and the lack of a mandate which Ranil Wickremesinghe has, and the unfortunate affiliation of him as being a supporter of the Rajapaksas, even though I personally disagree with that view, because if you look historically, Ranil Wickremesinghe's party and the Rajapaksa party have always been opposing each other. Correct. And they have regularly and often campaigned against each other. But we are in a very unusual and unprecedented times right now, where it came to a point where actually Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed by the very man who defeated him and his party at the previous election. But of course, as to what happens next, Ranil Wickremesinghe will have to step down as an MP in Parliament, and he takes up the presidency, and he will have to appoint a prime minister and form, as promised, some form of unity government. It'll be very interesting to see who will he appoint as the prime minister. Will he appoint the opposition leader, Sajid Premadasa, as his prime minister, or will he appoint someone from the Rajapaksa's ruling party, SLPP? Right now, it is quite uncertain. There are lots of positions which need to be taken up in the new cabinet. And as you said, getting the economy on track, bringing about political stability, some sense of normalcy is also very important for people. People are, as much as they are demanding systematic change, we should not forget that the reason why everyone came together to demand systematic change was primarily because of the economic collapse. I think satisfying people's primary economic needs will be coming first, and hopefully, and certainly, we will need a political and systematic change as well in order to prevent what has happened in Sri Lanka from happening again.
Diana Gamage, two things that the protesters, and in fact a lot of the people wanted as a consequence of this crisis, this grave crisis that your country is facing, is number one, they want to abolish the executive presidency, and number two, the point that Aritha made, will the Prime Minister be an opposition figure, whether it's a Sajid Premadasa or anyone else, so that there will be a national unity government? Will such an arrangement work at all?
Well, yes, actually, the plan is to have a opposition as the prime minister, because otherwise it's not going to be, a national government as we were planning to do so. And what the Aragalaya people are asking for, everyone to be together and get this, sorted out. So what we would also say is that definitely, as Member of Parliament, we would also say is that we would like to see someone obviously coming in from the opposition as the Prime Minister, because otherwise it's going to be a one-way, path, and then it can't work that way. So even the cabinet will have to be inclusive of all parties, in the cabinet as well, if we are going to have to work together, because that's exactly what the Aragalaya people want, and they want their issues sorted out. They want a proper, program. And what I can see is definitely Sri Lanka needs national policies. So far, we have not had any national policies in Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. And if we are going to change anything, we're going to have to starting off with national policies in the country. And each and every one, without having to go for their personal agendas, we have to think of the people of this country, because the country is in such a state today. But obviously, we cannot put aside and ignore that the fact was that it was mismanaged. Obviously mismanaged to the core, and taken, the wrong advice and doing the wrong things. Obviously, there has been a lot of wrong things being done within the last, couple of years. That's why, we have had to face such a situation. And especially when it came with the pandemic, we should have expected that this was going to happen. And, not taking any more debts, because usually we are in 51 billion US debt in the country. Yep. And this is a huge debt. But what we have been doing is, for so many years, we have been going on a roll-on, and we've been taking debts and then covering up our debts and then holding and carrying on with the country, working within the country as well.
Nina Gopal, one of the first orders that we got soon after the election of the new president was there's a ban on the protests in a 500-meter radius around the Galle Face. How do you see this playing out? Will this dissuade the protesters, or will this actually further accentuate the protests?
From what I've seen so far, I believe the protesters have, maintained this sort of silence and have refusing to even chant any slogans against anybody. Mm-hmm. And you can see on people crying and absolutely upset. How long that is going to last, I don't know, because I think the parliamentarians haven't heard the voice on the street. They haven't felt the pain of the people. And for the moments when how long this will last is the question that I personally would really like to know. And from the people I've spoken to today, they've all said that they are also worried about what the Students' Federation and groups like that, which actually have taken over, or not so much taken over as moved in and sort of infiltrated the movement, will do in the coming days. Because the peaceful protests that we originally saw on Golface have sort of, turned, well, not violent, but basically not it really looked as if it was much better managed, and it was being sort of manipulated from behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is definitely a worry. It's the security situation in Colombo and across the other cities, where there is I suppose a very great undercurrent which of hostility towards the present government. They would have been far better off, the parliamentarians, if they'd actually brought in, if Sajid Premadasa, for example, had stepped up and said that he would take a far better position. It is time for the opposition to step up and sort of counter what the SLPP government has done.
It's quite perplexing why the opposition would not do that. I'm sure if they did, there would be a substantial chunk of the SLPP also willing to go with the opposition on this. But anyway, I'll give the final word to Ranil Wickremesinghe. Do you see, first of all, the disappointment that Nina Gopal was talking about amongst the Aragalaya? Do you see scenes like what we saw last week, the storming of the Prime Minister's office, the violence that ensued? Do you see something similar, a flare-up like that, happen again? And what may mean for the Rajapakshas? Because if everybody in the country is going to accept Ranil as president and whoever's going to be the next Prime Minister, do you see the Rajapaksa clan once again in a position of influence with the new dispensation?
I mean, as to whether we'll see scenes of July 9th repeating itself will actually depend on whether Ranil Wickremesinghe and his newly appointed government will be able to deliver to some of the more immediate economic needs of the people. What happened on July 9th was possible because we had almost an entire country descend onto Colombo. There's probably about 1 to 1.5 million people that descended onto Colombo. To put into perspective, this is a city which has a population of 700,000 people. So about double the city's population probably descended onto Colombo on that day. And that's why we were able to see that. But it was largely economic driven. So we'll have to see whether the new government will be able to address some of the more immediate economic needs. I also just want to sort of point out what MP Diana Gamage spoke of, the sort of terrible decisions which led to economic destruction. It is because of MPs such as Diana Gamage that we are in this situation. She claims to be washing her hands off, the way she's speaking, but she was also elected. She wasn't elected. Just like Ranil Wickremesinghe, she got a free seat from the opposition party, which is headed by Sajid Premadasa. And then once she got that free seat, she switched sides to support the Rajapaksa government, especially introducing the 20th Amendment to the Constitution, which actually stripped Parliament of several powers, transferred powers to the president, and actually led to this economic destruction. So actually, the Aragalaya and the struggle is also about holding people like Diana Gamage, who violated our mandate, and to hold people like that accountable. And that system change we're demanding is actually also removing people like Diana Gamage, so that, we should really remind ourselves of that.
Okay,
also,
Arita, we'll leave it at that. To be fair, I should give an opportunity to Diana to respond to you. I don't know if she's there. Yes, ma'am, I've got 30 seconds to wrap up. You want to respond to Arita?
Yes. I to what Mr. Wickremesinghe was talking about me, because I think he should remember that I am the one who owned the Samik Jalabalabege party.
Okay, we've lost a connection there, so I'm going to apologize. Thank you very much to all our guests. We'll see how this story plays out in Sri Lanka. Of course, India has a huge stake in a stable, prosperous, and of course, like I said, politically and economically stable Sri Lanka. So we'll see how the story progresses. Thanks very much. In a moment, Akanksha will join you with the biggest exclusive tonight. Lawrence Bishnoi, operating from inside the Tihar jail with impunity, had no qualms ordering multiple hits on Salman Khan.
The sculptor himself, the main man behind this, is saying that there is actually no difference.
drugs to try and fund their terror operations and to also try and radicalize young, impressionable minds while confining them to the throes of drug addiction.
What is becoming increasingly worrying and problematic is that issues related to education is becoming so polarizing.